Today on the Pitchbook Podcast, we have the beautiful relief pitcher, Cami Liggett, pitching A Long Walk to Water by Linda Sue Park. Batter up! All right, Cami, welcome. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Awesome.
We are honored to have you today.
We're excited to have you. We probably, Zach's reminded me that we should probably tell the story of us trying to go on a cruise. And I will leave it to Zac and Cami to tell the story because I'll probably screw it up. So I'll just set it up. We had been planning on going, like Zach's wife and Cami and me had been planning on going on a cruise for 5 years, something like that.
At least.
Yeah.
At least. Yeah.
We talked about it and we finally booked it. And then what happened?
Well, for those that don't know, Matt and Cami are doing a cruise every quarter. They're world travelers, reaching out to us.
See the world.
At least once a year, reaching out to my wife and I, to Tiff and I, saying, "Hey, you guys should come on this trip." So we were finally like, "All right, let's do it." So we get our tickets, we book everything, and I think we were going to do was it the Southern Caribbean?
Yep.
Okay, we booked Southern Caribbean. I can't remember the cruise line. We'll just leave the cruise line out of it for now, because that was like a whole nother. It was not their fault. And the time of the trip, the date that I have in my mind, and I could be wrong, was March 12th. I just have that date burned in my memory. It was in March.
It was like the 12th or 13th for sure.
Okay,
yeah.
we were flying to Puerto Rico, if I remember. That's where we were going to port, get on our ship. We fly through, it was Denver. I can't remember what the connecting flight was. We get to Puerto Rico. And then at this time, leading up to this trip, we had just learned that some cruise ship it was like Hawaii had been, they were like stranded, or they couldn't port anywhere because all the ports were shutting because of the pandemic. They had a passenger on board that had the coronavirus, and they were trying to isolate everybody in their cabins. I mean, at that time, it was so nascent and new. No one really knew what was going on. It was like, if you touch the handle of a door, this virus will live on that handle, and if you touch it, you'll die.
Yeah,
They were like
exactly.
shutting down parks. Like our neighborhood park, eventually they had like all this police tape around to like, don't touch anything. So everyone was just really freaked out. Anyway, cruise lines are really funny because if you couldn't cancel, if you canceled, you didn't get your money back. And we're like, well, we can't cancel the trip because we won't get our money back. But if they cancel on us, then we'll get our money back. But they hadn't canceled. So we're like, we got to go. So let's go. I guess they're planning on it. and we get to Puerto Rico. We land, and I'm like, this is going to be so fun. Just kind of escape this crazy world for a bit. We land, and I think it's like an hour. What was it, an hour after we landed?
Well, I think Cami has a part of the story that's pretty hilarious.
Okay, go ahead.
There's some medical issue. I can't remember,
Cami.
But
because
we're gonna smuggle Cami on the ship.
Yeah, because I'm diabetic, and they said that if your doctor would sign off. So I'm in Puerto Rico trying to call my doctor, trying to get him to sign off on me going on this trip. And I'm calling our travel agent, like, we're in Puerto Rico. We're supposed to be going on this cruise in the morning. And she said, it's okay. As long as you're boarded by Saturday morning, they're not canceling any cruises. And like, we had upgraded our cruise. We bought all these cool excursions because we're fine with the Hewishes. Like, all this stuff's happening. We get to Puerto Rico. And
you got your doctor settled, right? You called.
Got the doctor settled. I called them, talked to them, freaking out, stressing out. Like, I had to go on this trip. We got to go on this cruise. It's happening. The world's shutting down. But this is like the one last thing.
Yeah, we should say that because Cami's diabetic, they were leery about letting her on the ship without a doctor's note because of the corona, and it was so new. This was literally like the day that
before
they announced it. Yeah, the day before they like announced shutdowns and everything. So just for some context, it was right at the beginning. My boss had just been in South Africa and told me they were taking temperatures down there, guys with guns, the army was there. He's like, there's no way you're going on the trip. I'm like, oh, we're going. It's fine. It's no problem. And then we get there. Cami finally gets her medical stuff figured out. and then
But we were so prepared to smuggle Cami on. I remember
Oh.
I know.
talking about ways we could
we're
just
like, it's fine. I'm not going to tell them I'm diabetic.
Yeah,
They don't need
yeah.
to know. It's
we'll
fine.
put
they
your
don't-
insulin. The insulin will put it in my shoes. We'll hide it. We're like trying to think of if we can't get hold of this
So
doctor.
like,
The ridiculousness.
so when we got to Puerto Rico, it was all closed. Like nothing was open. So we went to Denny's.
Yeah, Denny's in Puerto Rico, which is usually where you go in Puerto Rico for dinner.
Yeah.
It's
And we
Denny's.
went to it was like the craziest, most saddest.
Well,
It was
then
a fun
didn't we get a call like right after that from the travel agent? What happened? I
Yeah,
can't remember.
then we got a call from the travel agent saying actually everything's been canceled. All the cruises have been canceled. And I said, okay, well, we're supposed to get on a cruise tomorrow. She said, nope, you're gonna fly home tomorrow. So then we had to get flights home. It was crazy. Someone was like dying next to me on the flight home. Oh my gosh. That
And
was so crazy.
another funny thing was a guy that I worked with was actually on the exact same ship as us and was going to dock and fly home that night. So his cruise was done, but they wouldn't even let, I think it was Carnival, like dock. He actually had to stay on the ship and float around for a little while till Miami finally let
Well,
that
that
cruise ship
wasn't
dock.
we
So,
it wasn't Carnival that we went on.
oh,
So
Royal Caribbean, well, whatever. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The doesn't matter cruise ship, but anyway, that's the joke is
oh, it was
whenever
the
we try to
best
go on
like
vacation with the
18
Hewitt
hours
shit,
of my life with the Hueys. It was so
Yeah.
fun. We
And now-
lived it up.
The best 12 hours
I remember
in
taking
Puerto Rico.
I took toilet paper home from Puerto
Really?
Rico.
because of the concern about toilet paper.
Yeah, they're like, you gotta start hoarding toilet paper. And I'm like, oh, crap. Okay. Yeah,
The finest toilet paper.
Yeah.
because we went the night before to get like snacks for the kids, and we were like at Walmart, and we're like, what is going on? Why is everyone buying all this toilet paper? We have no idea.
I was
No
so
idea.
I was so mad.
I was so mad. So we have to have a redo.
Okay, we'll do a read. Yeah, it's been a few years. Now I'm just reluctant to go anywhere.
I know.
But yeah, and then getting the money back from the cruise line after they canceled on us and created the worst possible environment. That was a whole, I got my money back on the last legal day that they were required to refund the funds back. Like it was like the 45th day, and I'd been harassing them on Facebook Messenger. What a mess.
So we actually kept our money. We kept our money, and then like they gave us like an extra $800 or something for the next cruise that
It
we
was
went
like
on.
900.
Oh,
Yeah.
did they? Oh,
Yeah.
nice
So we just went on a cruise that took us 2 years to finally go on the cruise.
to
I
go.
think. But, yeah. Anyway,
That's a pretty good ROI on your
Yeah.
Yeah.
tickets.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
we were gonna go anyway, so we might as well keep our money in there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
We should have done that. I think I was just so mad.
Yeah.
I was
I
like,
know. I thought that COVID was gonna be 2 weeks. I didn't know it was
So
gonna
did
be 2 years.
Yeah.
So
that's what
Yeah.
we all thought, right? 3 weeks. We'll be
yeah,
done.
3 weeks.
Just
Yeah.
quarantine.
Just
Okay.
quarantine for 3 weeks. We're good. All right.
Yeah.
So
Okay, let's go.
Cami, back to books. Cami
Yeah.
is an avid reader of books, but she typically reads fiction, which I don't read. And so I don't know anything about this book. I told her if she wants to do a fiction, she can. We don't typically do that, but if she does, so I have no idea what this is. If this is fiction, nonfiction, I don't know what this is. So tell us
It-
about A Long Walk to Water.
It's actually a halvesies. Remember?
Oh,
It's-
okay. Okay, you didn't tell me what the book was, but you said it was a half fiction, half nonfiction, which makes no sense to me. What is
Yeah.
a half fiction, half nonfiction book?
Okay, so this book is about
Well, how did you hear about this book? Why
okay.
are you reading?
So about 14 years ago, I wormed my way into the neighborhood book club, and it was one of the book club's picks that we had to read. And when I first read it, I was so not interested. I'm like, what is this garbage? Because it's like a book for kids. It's only like 3 hours long. It's not very big. It's pretty broad. They don't go into a lot of description, which is actually good. But I like got to the bathtub one night and I read it in like an hour and a half because I can read fast. And it's one of the most remarkable books I've ever read in my life. So,
Wow.
So sorry, when you first heard about it, you're like, I'm not even reading this
yes,
because it's too much
because
of a kid book.
it's too stupid. What
Okay.
what am I reading? Why am I reading this dumb book?
So when
And
did
then
you
I
actually
read
finally read it for the first time? It
For
wasn't
book
during the
club.
book club. Oh, for book club. Okay.
Yeah, for book club, because even though I hate the books at book club, because everyone in our book club really likes to listen to World War II books or read them. I'm over that genre. But I will read any book for book club anyway, because I've read a lot of good books that I would have judged by the cover or their blurb and would have like not gotten them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I will read any book from book club, even if it's not my cup of tea.
So this is a World War II book.
No, it's
Oh.
actually it is not. I would
Okay.
no. So it is two different timelines. One's in 1985 and one's in 2008. And it is about, I don't know if I had no idea about it, but about the Lost Boys of Sudan. I don't know. Have you heard about them?
No.
Okay. So South Sudan. So the 1985 part is the true story. And it's a true story about this boy, and they don't go into a lot of detail, which is good because it's like a children's book, but it would be triggering for me. I don't think I'd be able to read it. Basically in 1985-ish, the northern part of Sudan had a lot of Arab people in their government, and they wanted to make the South Sudan Arab and Muslim, like a Muslim Islamic state. But the southern people felt they're more African than Muslim, and they did not want to change to religions. So there became this civil war from the north and the south. So as the book opens, this boy sitting in class, he's part of the Dinka tribe, and it's like one of the biggest tribes in Sudan. The Dinka tribe, they're known for like cattle herding and cattle. And so he doesn't like going to school because he wants to be like cattle herding and like finding rodents and eating them. Like he's like dreaming of the good old days of not having to be in school because he doesn't want to be in, he realizes he should be in school, but he's daydreaming of the good days. Well, while they're in school, shots fire out, and at this time, the teacher, what would happen is if unrest happened that you're in your village while you're away, or if the boys were out tending he's 11 at this time at the farm or the field or the livestock, they were told to run away. Don't go home, because they would either be killed or they'd be enslaved to fight for their side. So it's his story of redemption. It's like his story. And I didn't realize when I read it that I didn't realize there's so many of these lost boys. There's like 20,000 people from this tribe that were displaced.
Wow.
From this fighting. So then the other storyline is 2008, and this is a fictional storyline about this girl who has to walk. All she does is walk to water a day. She walks, fills up water, walks home, dumps it out, walks back to water, and she's part of the Our tribe. And Dinka and Our hated each other and they fought, but because where they live is so not watery, that like when it was like dry season, they wouldn't fight with each other because it took all of their like will to live to find water. So then when they had water, they would fight with each other. But so it's about, she's from the Our tribe, he's from the Dinka tribe, and it's his story. So I don't know if you know geography, but to the east is Ethiopia of Sudan.
Yeah.
So they walked across Sudan to
Wow.
Ethiopia.
Was this the real story of the kid walking?
Yeah, the real
Okay.
story. So he walks, he doesn't really know, he wants to meet his family. He doesn't know where his family is. He goes from the school. I guess there's a lot of people running and walking around, it sounds like, because people are just trying to escape the fighting. And he doesn't really know what to do, and like he like will like say, there's a couple of times he'll say that he's giving up, and he's like, my parents wouldn't want me to give up. And so he like but because he's a kid, they get attacked by some rebels, and they said, okay, we need all the men to come on our side. So they take all the men. Well, the boy is like, my dad taught me to be a man. I'm a man. And one of the soldiers said, you're not a man. Don't fight this fight yet, whatever. So they are just trying to survive, walking across Sudan to Ethiopia to get to a refugee camp.
And so what
Um,
happens? Does he survive? He makes it, and this is his true story. But is that
Yeah. He survives, but that's not it.
Okay.
Okay, so he walks across. They go through lion. Okay, so they go through like warring tribes,
Uh-huh.
they go through lion territory, crocodile territory. The amount of miles that he walked as an 11-year-old kid and didn't die is miraculous. Like, and none of the adults that walked with him, a couple of adults helped him, but most did not because
Mhm.
they thought that he was like a problem.
He was a burden.
Yeah, that's the word, burden. So he eventually gets to Ethiopia, and he's in a refugee camp there. And after like 5 years, it closes, and then he has to walk all the way back across Sudan up to Kenya because there's
Wow.
a refugee camp in Kenya. So he walks all the way to the refugee camp in Kenya. And then in like 1995 or 6, he ends up getting adopted by a family in the United States.
Hmm.
There's like a huge push for Americans to adopt, or not adopt, to take in these lost boys of Sudan because they
Hmm.
don't have families. They've been orphans. And so there's actually a large population in Salt Lake that came from Sudan. And so he ends up going to school and but he wants to go back to Sudan and to like help his people find water, because like the whole thing is like this girl. So it intermingles with this fictional girl from the warring tribe that he starts a foundation for water for Sudan.
Mm.
He goes to build wells on these warring tribes like properties so she can go to school and not have to walk to water.
So
Does that make
yeah, but why, this sounds weird, but why is there an interweaved story? Like why is there a fictional story interweaved in this? And is it
I think
good?
it's
Because
just
it
I
sounds odd to me.
no, it's good because like you realize, because it's like
Is it just because it's showing kind of the repercussions in the future or the
I think
potential
it's just showing
good?
like how hard it is to make it to live there. Like for me to walk 8 hours to like get water every day, and like that's my whole job, and I can't do anything but go to get water to support my family, and no one loves it, and everyone hates our lives, but like that's what we have to do. And that, so in the middle of the book, people come to her house, and there's this guy, and it ends up being him, but that's the part that's fake. Does that make
Got it.
sense?
Yeah.
So, but it's just showing how he went back to Sudan, started.
Did he actually do that though? In
Yes,
real,
but
okay,
he
so he
actually
did
did
it,
that.
but they mix it with a fictional story.
They mix it
It's
with
just
fictional story.
odd.
Like he's like, it does a good job.
Okay.
It does a better job than I say.
So
Anyway, and
is she from the Muslim side?
no, she's just from a different,
Just a
she's from
different
the
tribe.
tribe,
Okay.
Okay.
but Dinkas and they hate each other. But so this as she's like, they have to move, like when it's dry season, they move houses. They like, it's so bizarro thinking about it. And so these people come to her house, and she doesn't know who they are, and they come to between two trees, and he says, this is where we're gonna dig, and she said, this water is rock hard. I don't know why you think that's water here, but basically showing that he, instead of like, he got better and he got out, and he wants to make like his where he's from better,
Even though
um
it's a warring tribe kind of thing.
even though it's
Yeah.
someone that he is
Shouldn't.
supposed to not get along with.
Got it. Got it.
But
Okay.
like, he's helping their life and helping the lives of people that can't help themselves,
Yeah,
So
I
make
go
their
ahead.
lives better. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I just don't know why they wouldn't just have the whole thing be a true story. If he actually went back and did that, why not just tell
Oh,
some
he
of the
did. I know. I don't know, but it works really well. It works
Okay,
better
it
than I'm
works better than
saying.
I anticipated, I guess.
Yeah.
But
But it's
this
really short. It's a good book.
strange, huh?
it's
Interesting.
interesting when you have limited resources like water or food or whatever, how either a small village or two warring tribes or nation states are always
Yeah.
competing, always warring,
Yeah.
you know?
And they would, yeah. And they lived like on different parts of the river. And when the river dried up, they would all move to the lake and then they could all share the lake, but then the lake would dry up and it took her like, and maybe because I'm a girl and I just imagine myself being the water bringer,
Yeah.
like, oh, my brother gets to go to school and I have to bring the water. What the, like, I don't
Well,
know. So
and
I just like the arduous walk
yeah.
every day just to get water. Like that's her whole job is just to drink water
And
because they don't have access to wash water.
his walk across the Sudan, all
Mm-hmm.
the way back, then up
Mm-hmm.
north, and then
Yeah.
he, by some miracle, gets transplanted to America, like the land of abundance.
Yes.
He's like,
And then
what?
he uses that to bless people in Sudan.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's like it's one of the most amazing books I've ever read.
Like a boomerang. Yeah, he comes
Yeah,
back to kind of
it's
rescue
like it
people. It's
brings me
cool.
to it brings it yeah. Blah, 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 blah.
So does he get married, have a family? Does he end up staying in the
The book
US?
that I don't remember. So I read it probably like 7 years ago, and then I just re-listened to it barely, but I only re-listened to like part of it. So I can't remember. I'm sure I think he does, but I was looking for other books about the Lost Boys of the Sudan, and there's a lot. So I think I'm gonna read some more of them because they all sound like they go back to make Sudan better. So I think it's an interest that they have such a love for their home and they have abundance now and they want to go work in it.
It's a neat genre. My wife, she likes to read historical fiction. I'm trying to remember the name of the author. If I think of it, I'll say it. Um, but just to take some of those historical things that have happened that we just can't imagine, like wars that have happened, but to put a storyline to it, to make it
Yeah,
one
yeah,
succinct versus here's so and so's journal, which may not be really
right,
interesting to just read, but to kind of create a storyline that connects all of these different facets of
right.
history is interesting.
So yeah.
That's why I like Buddy Levy, I think his name is the guy that did the one about the Amazon, because he takes like the documents and then makes it a story. So it's not historical fiction. It's just he tells it kind of in order correctly based on the journals and stuff. Okay, so what we always ask, what would you apply or what have you tried to apply to your life? Um, and then what do you rate the book? I mean, obviously you're not going to be walking very far to water here, but perhaps a more of an appreciation for the things that we have. I don't know. What have you applied from to your life from this book?
Well, I love Diet Coke. I don't really like to drink water. And I realize how snobby that makes me. So really when I do turn on the tap, I really am more grateful. It just puts life into perspective of like how far people have to struggle to just barely survive. Like, and how blessed I am to live here in where I live in my circumstances. And I just try to be more grateful and more giving really to people. I don't know.
And what do you rate the book? Single, double, home run, triple, what?
What, isn't it a grand slam?
Grand slam you can have. You can have a grand slam if you really love it.
It's one of my favorite books.
Interesting. Interesting that you didn't want to read it and then you loved it.
That's how a couple of books at book club have been. I'm like, this book's stupid. And I read it. I'm like, that's one of the best books I've ever read. I don't know why I'm so like, because I like history or fiction. I like autobiographical. I like different, but historical fiction set in World War II with a love story isn't usually my jam.
Yeah.
And that's what book club is.
Like Ruta Septus. That's who I
Oh,
was
I like
thinking of.
Rudaseptis. I must
Okay.
betray you. I like Rudaseptis.
That sounds like a
Excellent writer.
disease, rudiseptis. Like,
Yeah,
oh
she's a
shoot,
good.
I
I
was
like her
diagnosed with
books.
rudiseptis. I've
Well,
gotten
she's a
historical
great
fiction
author.
all over.
Joke's on you. She's a great author, Matt.
She is a great author.
It's a guy?
Uh, No, it's a girl.
It's a
Okay.
girl. Yeah.
Okay.
Pronounced like spaghettis. Sepetus.
Sepetus.
Rudis
Rudis
sepetus
There you
is
go.
how you pronounce it.
Like spaghetti.
Like
Yeah.
spaghetti. Spaghettis. Rudis
Spaghettis.
sepetus.
I think we should probably leave it right there. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, Cami. We really appreciate it. We'll have you next time. And as long as it's not a historical romance in World War II, then we're okay. Deal?
Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah, done. Okay.
Thanks,
Okay.
Cami.